Okay, so today's rant is about Christianity and why I don't like it, personally. Now, I got my material from a few different sources, so I can't take credit for all of it. Um, I wrote this all down beforehand, so I'm just going to read it now. So, disciple of Christ, I want to leave you this message to let you reflect upon your own beliefs. Now, let's consider a few points about your beliefs. The first and most important is that you should recognize that in accepting the entirety of your religion as true, you completely reject the thousands, possibly millions, of incompatible belief systems around the world. You reject Judaism, Buddhism, Hinduism, Islam, Jainism, Taoism, or Taoism, Egyptian, Norse, Mayan, and Greek mythology. You reject all of these beliefs, even though you probably don't know any of the details of them. Now, why do you do that? And it's because you were probably raised a Christian, probably somewhere with a sparse population, lowly funded schools, and an incomplete teaching of science. That's why you believe in creationism. Now, I, on the other hand, went to a private school in an upscale urban area with an excessive education in science. I'm a big science fan, and I was accepted into one of the top science schools in the country, and I'm going there in the fall. Well, if I have enough money, of course. The religion you were raised into, Christianity, teaches you to accept what you are told by the holy book and authority figures without question. Of course, this would be evolutionarily beneficial to any religion, and it's certainly effective in letting your Christianity spread. Because when people don't question authority, the people are happy and they don't rebel. They're, happy with their explanations. They're satisfied with all the explanations they were given and ignore when something doesn't really make sense because they're so happy, with their old ways that they're used to and the way their own teachings comfort them. You're taught to believe everything religion tells you, just like you were raised by your parents and you listen to your own parents unquestioningly. You don't question your parents, and you were raised by a religion, and you don't question your religion, just like you don't question your parents. And the benefit of science and why it has advanced us so much is that science is about questioning. All science is falsifiable, which means that there is always an opportunity to prove it wrong. When something is called a scientific fact and fails to be proven wrong, so nobody ever proves the scientific fact wrong, it remains accepted as fact. But when it is proven wrong, scientists delve into the subject and they try to find the truth. And science has allowed us to build flying airplanes after trial and error, boats on the principles of buoyancy, and predict the weather with relative accuracy. I mean, the weatherman can be wrong sometimes, but really it's pretty accurate because of science. And we know what stars are made of, we know how far they are, we know how to split the atom, how to build atomic bombs, to explore the bottom of the sea, to calculate the size of the Earth's core, and be able to count the valence electrons on count the valence electrons on atoms. But when Christianity is in power, such as when Christianity is in power, we get something like the Dark Ages, which is a theocracy. One of the main reasons the Dark Ages was such a failure, and why there were so little scientific advances, was that Europe was under a theocracy, and people were discouraged to study science or apply it in any way, because, their rulers taught not to threaten religion with their newfangled revolutionary science, which would have been really helpful. And you can as you might see today, as you might know, there is a negative correlation between education and religiousness. In more sparsely populated states, such as Kansas, which is the basically the creationist state, people are either too separated from neighboring regions to have sufficient education, or of the, they're too separated from the rest of, the country to have sufficient education of, that those people have. And they have less knowledgeable teachers and less knowledgeable students. So, or either they're too far away from, the more populated regions. They're too far away from the more educated regions, or they're homeschooled by parents who are probably not very good teachers. And this becomes a vicious cycle, and the less populated areas become less and less educated. Kansas, commonly noted for its high creationist population, is in fact the 10th least densely populated state. So, yeah, I'm gonna skip this part, and, evidence is something you have to take into consideration when reflecting on your beliefs. Now, let's get something straight. Just because a lot of people believe something doesn't make it true. You cannot argue that Christianity is valid simply because millions of people believe it. And you have to know what real evidence is. Reading a 1.5 millennia old book isn't very reliable, especially after so many details being literally lost in translation. And in addition, the Bible is even less valid by the fact that the New Testament was not even starting to be written until hundreds of years after Jesus died. None of the witnesses to Jesus actually wrote any part of the Bible. And, well, their descendants did. But you know how stories can change over generations, just like species. Science books were written after direct observation of experiments done by scientific method. On The Origin of Species by Charles Darwin was written with direct observation of different life forms, and it even included Darwin's illustrations of the animals that he studied. This is an example of direct observation, and it is scientifically valid because what he witnessed can be tested empirically to be true or false, because anyone can visit the Galapagos Islands where he made most of his observations. Or many of them. I don't know if they were mostly there. Now, there are examples of things written thousands of years ago that we both can and can't test. For example, the Pythagorean theorem was formulated thousands of years ago in Egypt and still holds true today, because that can be tested empirically. On the other hand, the Old Testament, which was written thousands of years ago, said absolutely false truths, such as that bats are birds. Bats are not birds. Bats are mammals. They're in a different class. Kingdom, phylum. Phylum? Yeah. And another thing that you have to question is you have to question the validity of the Old Testament that you take for granted. Things such as the fact that bats are birds are obviously false. The Old Testament says that we were created from clay. Is it literally true that we were created from dirt? I mean, literally? It says God personally spoke to old people in the Old Testament. It says a bear mauled 40 children to death after a religious authority damned a single child. Hundreds of people survived for 40 years in the desert. The earth was flooded, and all the species of animals around the planet boarded a single boat, did not kill each other, and survived on that boat for 40 days. The Red Sea split down... The Red Sea split down the middle, for long enough for hundreds of people to walk across the sea floor. And a bush lit on fire and spoke to a man. I mean a burning bush actually, like, verbally speaking to a guy. And a woman turned into a pillar of salt, and a snake spoke human language. I mean, what are you supposed to believe? Do you believe some things but not others? How can you tell what's true and what's not? Or is it all true? Because Constantinople's version of the Bible did include these passages, but not many of the others that were rejected. I mean, one of the stories that was rejected was that angels came down from heaven and raped women who subsequently gave birth to giants. Do you not believe this simply because it was excluded from the modern version of the Bible?